Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison and today I am finally getting to my July wrap up. So in the last TBR I did, which would be the TBR for August, I said that I was splitting up my wrap ups from my TBR because I felt like it was just too much information to have in one video. And hopefully that will make them both a little bit shorter, like the TBR and the wrap up videos. And then the other reason was because I was sometimes doing the video too early, like I was doing it before the previous month had ended, and so I was still in the process of finishing up reads for that month, so I decided to split them up to make, you know, my reading more clear and to make the videos a little bit shorter. So that's what I'm doing today. We are getting right into the July wrap-up. I read 8 books in July, which is actually very impressive. I know I have said before that I wanted July to be like a really good reading month for me, and it did turn out to be that way, even though I did struggle a little bit with like motivation to read. I mean, it is summer and everyone is really busy, like we're super busy, so I was finding a lot of things to occupy my time with other than reading, but I still managed to get through 8 books, which is pretty impressive as far as I'm concerned. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into it so as not to take so long. So the first book I read in July was Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This is an adult historical fiction. It is quite lengthy, it is quite dense. It is set in the Tudor period in England, in medieval England, so like the 1530s, I believe, like 1520s, 1530s, and it follows the life of a man named Thomas Cromwell. This is the first book in the Wolf Hall trilogy by Hilary Mantel, and I quite liked this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it here because I did film a book review for it. I talked quite a bit about this book in that review because I think I had just finished reading it when I filmed the review, so I had lots of thoughts and lots of things to say. But I really enjoyed this book, and I recommend it for anyone who enjoys reading about the Tudor period, and for anyone who really can appreciate like an authentically written historical fiction. This is not a romance at all by any means. There's literally like 0 romance in this book, so if you're looking for a more authentic historical fiction that's not, 1, set in World War II, and 2, not a romance, then this might be a good option for you. The second book that I got through in July was The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. This book is one of my absolute favorites. It is adult fantasy, or I guess anyone could read it if they want to, but sometimes it can be a bit dense. I actually listened to this one on audiobook, and I listened to the Phil Daglish versions of the audiobooks. So I have talked extensively about this series and those audiobooks on my channel over the past few months because I have been rereading them this summer, and I absolutely love those audiobooks, but they're not necessarily audiobooks because they're not officially done. So you can listen to them for free. I will make sure I link links for all 3 of the books in the description box for you guys so you can check them out. But I just think that Phil did such a wonderful job like capturing Tolkien's words, and it's not abridged. None of them are abridged. He says every single word in the book, which I know there are a few different editions of The Lord of the Rings out on audiobook, like official versions, and they're abridged. They don't say every single word of the book, and sometimes even events are out of order, and I just have been disappointed by those time and again. So it was really refreshing to find not only a great audiobook that is accurate, but also one that is free, which makes it wonderful for all sorts of fans to enjoy it. Just Phil spent like 4 years putting together the audiobooks for these 3 novels, so he gets all the applause for just being awesome in the first place. He's great. So make sure you check out those links if you would like to listen to these on audiobook. They are just top notch. I love them so much. I literally will never not recommend those for people. So I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars because I love it, and also because Phil is amazing. So there's that. That's really all you need to know about it. So definitely check out the audiobooks if you're interested in reading these, but feel like they might be too much. I feel like the audiobooks do a great job of like keeping you interested, because it's not just like someone sitting there reading, you know, word for word. It's like dramatized a little bit. There's all sorts of like background noises going on. All of the characters have distinct and separate voices. It's not your run-of-the-mill audiobook. It's not like you have one dude sitting down and reading, you know, each part and maybe changing the tone a little bit if it's male or female. So it's just really, really, really good. It's definitely different than a lot of the audiobooks out there. So if you're intrigued at all, I highly recommend that you check them out. The third book that I read in July is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This is a YA fantasy novel, kind of science fiction-ish, but mostly fantasy for the most part. I enjoyed this book. It was pretty fast-paced. The book itself is set over like, is it a few weeks? Yeah, a few months. It's set over like a few months, but it doesn't seem like it's taking that much time to get from like one point in the plot to the next. There's a huge plot twist at the end that probably everyone else is like, oh, I saw that coming, but I am like the most oblivious reader ever. So I was like, what the heck just happened? Everyone else is going to be like, this is so predictable. And I'm like, I kind of did not see that coming. Like, I thought I had figured out, you know, where the deception was at, but I was completely wrong. I was just like, what? This makes sense, but my brain is having a hard time comprehending how this is the actual like answer to the plot. So that was really fun. I really liked this book. I think that Lynette did a great job of crafting a pretty unique world. I mean, the main gist is that you have, you know, these two sides are like fighting, and each one feels like they're the right person and the other side is wrong. So you have that like tension going on, like each side feels like their cause is justified, and it's kind of up to you as the reader to either pick a side or kind of look at it objectively and be like, I see where this side is right and I see where this side is right, but if they came together, things would be so much better. I'm pretty sure this is the first book in a trilogy, and the second book is going to be released sometime this year. So these books came out pretty quickly. This one just came out in April or March, I believe, of this year. And then the second one is getting released in October or November. I'm not 100% sure on the specifics, but it is coming out this year. And then I believe the next novel is coming out next year in June. I think June 2022 will be releasing the final novel. So I am excited to see where the story goes in the second book. What did I give this one? 3 out of 4 stars. I feel like this is a pretty solid YA book, and that might even be like a 3.5 out of 4 stars. It's just really good. I really liked all of the different things that were pulled into this book, and I think it's a really solid start to a new series by this author, so I'm definitely looking forward to and excited to continue this series. The fourth book that I read in July was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. This was a reread for me, and if you don't know, this is a YA fantasy. This is the second novel in her Throne of Glass series. What did I give this one? I give this one 4 out of 5 stars, and, you know, that's just, you know, having read the whole series previously to rereading this, I kind of understand where Sarah is going with a lot of her plot lines and stuff, decisions that she made with this book. So I had a deeper appreciation for this book the second time around, and I really appreciated that. I did start listening to this one on audio, and that poor narrator, bless her heart, she is probably like the sweetest person in real life, but I just could not stand her reading the book on audio. So I ended up switching probably about a third of the way through it to physical, and I ended up finishing it in like a couple of days. So I don't know if it was like solely on the audiobook that was causing me to not want to listen to it, or if it was just me actually wanting to read a physical book rather than listening to a book. So I did finish this one physically. I really enjoyed reading it. Like I said, I read through it pretty quickly. Like by the time the plot gets rolling in this book, you just gotta figure out what the heck is going to happen. So it's kind of like unavoidable to kind of rush through it. I just really enjoyed it. I have a stronger appreciation for the first book, Throne of Glass, and then now this book. I'm definitely looking forward to reading the next book, Heir of Fire, because if you've read Throne of Glass and if you actually enjoy Throne of Glass, then you know Heir of Fire is like a turning point for the series. So I am definitely excited to continue along with my reread. The fifth book that I read in the month of July was very frustrating. It is A Time of Blood by John Gwynne. And this is the second novel in his Of Blood and Bone series, and it is adult fantasy. This book was intense. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's very good. I mean, I have only read like A Time of Dread and A Time of Blood by John Gwynne, but so far his writing, like there's a standard that he set for his writing, and like so far the 2 books that I have read have, you know, exceeded that standard. I don't even know. He's like a brilliant writer. I have a lot of thoughts to say about it, and I'm actually going to do a book review for this one that will be coming out in a couple of weeks. I think August 18th or around there. I will be getting the book review done for this book as well. I did review A Time of Dread, and all of my book reviews are like non-spoilery. I try to keep them as non-spoilery as possible. However, sometimes reviews for sequential books might be spoilery just because of the fact that I might have to talk about certain characters that, you know, may or may not be, you know, they might be in the previous book but not super important in that book, and then they have a bigger role in the second novel or following books. So, I try to keep my book reviews spoiler free, but sometimes it's just unavoidable. So watch the review for this book at your own risk if you have not read A Time of Dread. But if you have read A Time of Dread, then you could probably watch the review I'm going to do for this book, you know, with no problems. So I feel like this is a really good second novel. Sometimes sequels or second books in series can just be like kind of meh, like they're okay, they're not super awesome, but this one actually had a ton of plot progression. There was a ton of stuff that happened in this book that was really important for like character development and plot development and world development. So I really liked this book, and I am definitely looking forward to and simultaneously dreading reading the third and final novel in this trilogy. So I'm just really scared because John Gwynne is not afraid of like killing characters off. So I'm kind of scared for what's going to happen in that book. But I'm also like anticipating it being really good and wrapping up the trilogy really well. And I am excited to find out why the heck all the things that are happening are happening. Okay, on to book number 6. We have The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. This was another of my rereads this month. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because I really, really like this series. So this is the second novel in the Bone Season series, and I would classify it as adult science fiction. It is just excellent. There is a huge plot twist in this book. There are character development is outstanding. Plot development is outstanding. I just absolutely love this book. Some of it can be a little bit draggy. I will admit that there are some parts where you're like the characters are like trying to get like resources around so they can actually do the thing that they need to do. And that part can be a little bit draggy, but I feel like there are just enough action scenes or like near-death experiences for our main character to kind of like you can get to a part and you're like, oh, this is kind of boring. And then suddenly something is happening, and then you're just dragged right back into the story. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out what happens next and that kind of thing. So it can seem kind of dull and kind of draggy at some points, but it's intentional. Like it's just what the character is going through in this book, and if it was all like rushed and fast paced, I don't feel like it would have been as solid of a sequel to the Bone Season. I don't know. I really, really liked this one. The first time I read it, I remember being like blindsided by all of the plot twists. I'm like, am I reading a book or am I riding a roller coaster? I'm not really sure. So I really, really enjoyed this one, and I am definitely looking forward to continuing my reread with the third novel, and then I will finally be getting to the brand new book in this series that just came out this year. It's called The Mask Falling. So I have been rereading the first 3 books in preparation for reading the 4th book because it has been such a long time since I read these, and Samantha Shannon is a brilliant writer. I absolutely love her Bone Season series. I did read her other book that she wrote, The Priory of the Orange Tree, and I think she had really good intentions, but that book was just a drag. I really did not like that book at all. It was a very huge book, but I feel like there was literally no world development in that book, and that really bothered me. I feel like if a high epic fantasy book is going to be almost 1,000 pages long, then there should be some world development, and there just was not. It was very character focused and very character driven, and I just didn't care for that at all. But that's beside the point. I have nothing but good things to say about the Bone Season series, and I am so looking forward to rereading the third book and then finally getting to the new one in the series. I'm just really like anticipating it being very good. Okay, so book number 7 was Bonecutters Dawn by Catherine Purdy. This was a book that I buddy read with my friend Brianna, and I have very mixed feelings about this book. I gave it 3 stars. It is YA fantasy, and it is the second book in the Bonecutters Moon duology. And it has very good qualities, as in it's fast-paced. It's got, what else does it have? If you're looking for a book that is about witches, and it's fantasy, and it has like cool magical qualities to it, I guess, but doesn't require a lot of like thinking, then you would like this book. If I would have went into this book knowing that it was going to be for entertainment only, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But there was a ton of like plot development that had no gravity. I don't know if that even makes sense. So like, our characters will be going along doing things, and then some plot lore would get thrown in there, and I have no idea where it came from, why, it's not explained. It's not explained at all whatsoever. Like, if someone told you about, like, they were describing, like, a world to you in a book, and they could tell you, like, they'll be like, you know, this thing, this is how you do this thing. And you could be like, why? And they would give you an answer. Like, here's the reason within this world why this works the way it does. That doesn't exist in this book. The author, I feel like the author had like a hat, and then on slips of paper inside of this hat, she wrote down like X plot device. And there was like 50 of them in this hat. And she threw them all in the hat, and she shook it all up. And then every time she needed a plot change or something, she would just stick her hand in the hat, rummage around, and pull one out and just be like, oh, that sounds good. Let's put this in right here. So this book kind of felt like a grab bag, as far as plot goes. I struggled so bad with it. But at the same time, it was very enjoyable to read. I am having, my brain is having a very hard time, trying to connect these two things. Like, this book was highly enjoyable. It was fast-paced. It was fun to read. I read it super quick because I just had to freaking find out what was going to happen. But then along that journey, I had all of these random things thrown at me. And the characters, I would be like, okay, but why is this a thing? And the characters are just like, oh, because. And I'm like, that is not good enough. I need this to make sense within this world, and it does not. And I guess if you're looking for a book for pure entertainment, then this is perfect. I would say that Bonecutters Moon, the first book, had way better plot development, or world development. Everything that happened in that book made sense. It was explained. And then this book was so rushed and so fast-paced that the author just didn't take time to explain anything, or didn't know how to explain it. I don't even know. I can't explain it because I'm the reader. I'm not the author. I don't have all this lore in the back of my mind while I'm reading it. So maybe it's stuff that the author knew but didn't feel like she needed to explain. And that doesn't bother some people. It really bothered me. It really did. But I enjoyed this book. I don't know what else to say. A lot of the things in this book bothered me. Mostly world development bothered me. Why are things just happening and nothing's getting explained? But I really enjoyed reading it. I don't understand. It's really confusing. This is probably not the first time this happened to me, but I'm still why? Why are things this way? What the heck is going on? And then And the characters are just like, oh, because. And I'm like, that's not good enough. This is like life and death here, and you guys are just like believing it because you just are, like, because. And I'm like, that's not, that doesn't work. That doesn't work out for me. So anyways, I've talked about this book long enough. So I'm going to put it down and we're going to talk about the last book I read. The last book that I read in July was The Maiden Ship by Michelin Rickman. This book. Okay, so this book is the first book in a trilogy, and it is indie published, which I think is absolutely wonderful. I feel like authors should be, you know, able to write their stories and put them out in the world. I mean, people can write crap and put it up on Facebook and call it, you know, literature. So I feel like people that are actually trying to craft stories and create different worlds should definitely have the opportunity to put their work out there. But I don't really have anything to say about this book. It was a book and I read it, and that's pretty much it. I had really high hopes for this book because of the main character being male, and that just doesn't really happen a lot. And he was adorable. He was a pretty good character. My main issues with this book were that nothing really happens. Like, I don't know. The writing style itself, while it was good, but it was just very quaint. Like, I understand that this is a book that is mostly set on a ship. Like, they're sailing around. They're not really pirates. They're like merchants or whatever, and they live on this ship, and that's just kind of what they do. There is some magic in this. Actually, there's a lot of magic in this book. This whole, like, plot, the premise of this book is, like, trying to find and save the magic because it's disappearing or whatever. But just between the characters being like two-dimensional and whatnot, and the writing style just being so odd. Like, I get that you have sailors and they like talk funny, but the writing was just so like formal. I don't even know if I can really explain it very well. But I just don't have anything to say about this book. Like, it evoked no emotions in me at all whatsoever. So I don't know if I'm going to continue reading the series or not. I have the second novel on my shelves, but I just don't know if I feel compelled to read it. The last time I felt like this about a book was when I read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, and I literally felt the same way. I'm like, it was a book, I read it, and that one was twice the size of this one, and I just felt no emotion about it. I literally did not care, and I feel the same way about this book. I literally do not care about anything that happened in it, and I really don't know why, because there's not really anything bad. Like, all of the characters are like basically adorable. They all have quirks. There's banter. Like, there's a lot of good about this book, but I just don't care. So I really don't have anything else much to say about this book. If you like YA fantasy and you like quirky characters and like, I don't even know, maybe you would like this book, but it is YA fantasy, just for anyone that wants to know. I just wish I liked this more than I did, but I didn't. So I really don't have anything else to say about it. I had high hopes for this book and it just didn't live up. So that's unfortunate. I will keep you guys posted if I end up reading the second novel or not. So that is pretty much it for my July wrap up. I read 8 books. My favorite like unread book, so like a book I haven't read before, was probably A Time of Blood or Wolf Hall. I liked both of those pretty equally. And then my favorite reread, I'm going to say, was The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. So those are like my favorite books this month. Least favorite book was obviously The Maiden Ship, followed closely by Bonecutters Dawn. Both of those books sounds like, yep, it was a book. At least Bonecutters Dawn was more entertaining to read than The Maiden Ship. The Maiden Ship is literally less than 300 pages long, and it was hard to get through all of those pages because it just kept going on and on and on, and I was like, when is something going to happen? And I don't know. Maybe I was just in a slump when I was reading it and I didn't realize it, and I don't know what happened with that book. I really wanted to like it, but it really was not fun to read. I just struggled with it a lot. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna stop rambling and let you guys get on with your day because this video has gotten quite long. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching, for hanging out with me, and hopefully I'll see you guys in another video. Bye!